So I'm going to get right to the point today. Chocolate tart. Now, I've been wanting to do this for quite some time, but finally we're going to get to do it with a few little twists on it. Check this one out. And as you can tell, this is not a regular tart. No, it's a little bit nuts. Well, a malted chocolate tart. And we're going to be making this with a sweet pastry, followed by that silky smooth chocolate filling, topped off with some candied pistachios, and then finished off with some Chantilly cream. What an absolute dream. But before we get started, feel free to hit that subscribe button and that bell notification to let you know when the videos are up. So I feel like I said my piece. Let's get to it. So before we start our sweet pastry, we're going to butter and flour our tart mold, and it's 22 centimeter or 8.6 inches in diameter. And you don't need a lot of butter, you just need enough to coat this bad boy, and then just coat it with a touch of flour. Well, kind of a touch. So you've seen me make sweet pastry dozens of times before, so we're going to whiz through this quickly. So we're going to need 75 grams or 1/3 of a cup of unsalted butter. We're also going to need 150 grams or 1 cup plus 1/5 of a cup of all-purpose flour or plain flour. Also 50 grams of icing sugar or 1/2 cup. And then get your hands in there, crushing down the butter with your fingers, incorporating it to the dry ingredients. And once it's finally incorporated, we're going to add 1 egg yolk and 2 tablespoons of milk. And we're going to mix that together until it's all bound into a dough. And if you've got a cool kitchen, you can roll this pastry straight away. If it's the summertime and your kitchen's quite hot, cling wrap this and let it rest in the fridge for about 15 to 20 minutes. So lightly dust your work surface with flour, and then grab yourself a rolling pin and then carefully roll out the pastry. Once the pastry is the size of the tart tin, carefully roll the pastry up into the rolling pin. And then holding the inside of the rolling pin, gently roll the pastry off over the tin. And then lifting up the pastry, pushing with your finger into the corners of the pastry tin. And once the pastry's been pushed into the tin, roll the rolling pin over the top, just to cut off the excess. And you can keep the excess pastry and make some smaller tart tins with it. And to stop the pastry from rising, you can use the bacon beans and parchment paper or the fork and egg method. And we're going to go for the fork and egg method for today. And all you need to do is just poke a few holes in the pastry using a fork to stop it from rising in the oven. So we're going to put this tart in the freezer for about 5 minutes to firm up the pastry. And while that's firming up, you want to preheat your oven to 180 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. So once the tart is firmed up, we're going to pop this in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. And after about 10 minutes, your tart should be looking something like this with very little color and cooked all the way through. And then to stop the tart from leaking, we're going to need to fill it with a little bit of egg yolk or egg wash, just to fill those holes, and we're going to pop it back in the oven for a further 2 minutes. So there is our perfect tart. So set this aside to cool down. So time for that malted chocolate to fill the tart. So grab yourself a medium-sized pan and weigh yourself 450 ml of double cream or heavy whipping cream, which is 2 cups. Then you want to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 pinch of salt. And then place this onto the stove onto a high heat to bring up to the boil, but be careful it doesn't boil over. So next we're going to need 500 grams or 3 cups of good quality milk chocolate. And I do recommend getting these in pellets rather than blocks because it's going to be a little bit more tricky, but just carefully chop them up with a knife. That is what I call some double C thick chocolate. And then just very carefully using a knife, not using too much pressure, to cut through the chocolate. So once you've finally chopped up the chocolate, you're going to need to add 3 tablespoons of malted milk powder and also 60 grams or 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And once that cream has come up to the boil, pour it straight over the chocolate and the butter and then gently mix it with a spatula until it's all dissolved. And once it's dissolved, it should be looking something like this. And once your tart has cooled down, pour the mixture straight into the tart. And then you want to pop this in the fridge for about 2 to 3 hours, or preferably overnight, just until it's set. And if you've got any leftover mix, you can always pop it into a dish. So I think it's time to get a little bit nuts. Well, maybe not that quite nuts. So we're going to make some candied pistachios. So grab yourself an oven tray, and we're going to need 100 grams or 3/4 of a cup of pistachios. In addition, we want 60 grams or 1/3 of a cup of sugar. and then making sure the pistachios and the sugar are evenly spread out in the tray. And also you want to make sure your oven is still on 180 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. And you want to pop these in for roughly about 5 minutes, giving them a shake every couple of minutes. And yeah, shall we try this again? So using the same amount of sugar and place it into a saucepan onto a high heat. And once it turns into a caramel, add your pistachios, give it a mix, and then take it off the heat. And then grab yourself a tray with a silicone mat and then just carefully spread the pistachios over the top, breaking them apart as quick as you can before they cool down. And there we go, there is our far better quality candied pistachios. And sometimes it's nice to show you the do's and also the don'ts. And the last little bit of garnish we're going to make is the Chantilly Cream. And we're not going to need to make much. So we're going to need 150 ml or 2/3 of a cup of heavy whipping cream or double cream, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and lastly 2 tablespoons of icing sugar or powdered sugar. And then whip into a frenzy until it's nice and thick, but don't go too wild. So we're pretty much ready to go, and this is thick and creamy. So we managed to get the tart out of the tin and it's looking fantastic. My only concern is you're probably going to need longer for it to set, preferably overnight. Then you're going to have the most perfect malted chocolate tart ever. So grabbing a few of the candied pistachios, just place carefully over the top. Finishing it with a scoop of that Chantilly cream. And if you're feeling super fancy, you can chop up some of the candied pistachios and just finish that over the top of the cream. And there it is, folks. There is our milk malted chocolate tart. It's come out an absolute little dream. And obviously it's not quite 100% set, but obviously by tomorrow this will be perfect. So if you're going to make this, give yourself plenty of time for it to set. Now I know we can't really do a cross section, but with the leftover chocolate that we set in the fridge, I can at least show you that. So as I said, it's a little touch soft, but oh boy, look at that. It's an absolute dream. And as you can see, it's a little touch soft as it's sliding down the spoon, but by tomorrow, this should be set perfectly. And if you want to speed up the process a little bit, you can actually reduce the amount of cream down to 450 to 400 mils when adding to the chocolate. So that would actually speed up the process slightly. And that's it for this week, folks. The malted milk chocolate tart came out an absolute little dream. And also, if you want to try this with dark chocolate, I'll adjust the recipe for you folks in the description box below as per usual. So I won't be here next Friday. I will be back again the Friday after, but we will be live on Twitch on Friday celebrating our 4-year partnership anniversary with Twitch. So if you want to come and stop by, we'll be there next week, Monday to Friday, 10 AM Mountain Time as usual. The link is in the description box below as per usual. Also, I'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to give a like, dislike, and also feel free to give a comment. Always appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, feel free to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to let you know when the videos are up. But until next time, folks, stay safe, awesome, and amazing.